Hey, what's going on, everybody? Today is September 6th. It's Friday, and you are listening, watching the Daily AI Show live. And we are excited to have you here because today we get an opportunity to go back over some of the previous weeks. There we go. Get that off the screen. Some of the previous week's topics and kind of dive in a little bit deeper. So we kind of typically call this like the recap show or the bi-weekly recap show. And a lot of times it's just, wait, hold on. What did we just say? Which is why we usually have that on the show title. So today we have a good group with us. We have Junmi, Beth, Carl, Andy, and I'm Brian. And just as sort of a starting point here of, what are some of these topics that we might bring up? Let's kind of take a back. Let's go back. Let's go back in time and look at what we've talked about on this show. Yeah. Thank you, Jimmy. That is oh, Beth. God, that's so perfect. But can I pause really quick and tell you guys? All right, hold on. This is not AI, but can I just share this with you since you just did this? And of course, we knew what that was. And I'm thinking, God, there's so many younger people that are like, they have no idea what is from Wayne's World. Okay. I'm listening, just really quick. I'm listening to Spotify and I'm just jamming out to the songs. And I'm like, Brick by Ben Folds 5. That's an awesome song. Oh my God, The Freshman by the Verve Pipe. I'm just jamming out or whatever. And so I'm like, at some point, I'm just doing work this morning and I'm like, man, this is a really good playlist. What am I listening to? I swear to you, I open up Spotify and the name of the playlist is songs old millennials grew up with that are now, quote, classic rock. Does it just ouch?
Yeah, feelings about that, Brian. I can hear it.
Yeah. So, and Ben Folds 5 is classic rock. What does that mean? AC/DC,
super classic rock, I guess.
Iron Maiden,
super duper classic rock. I know the stuff we call classic rock is like, that anyway, has nothing to do with AI. I just want to share with you is like I kind of got slapped by my computer this morning and feeling a little old. Okay, so we've talked about all sorts of stuff, guys, over the last 2 weeks. We talked about the AI reality paradox, which was that was a show 2 Mondays ago. We were diving deep and just talking about how it's getting easier to say, hey, that's not me, that was AI, than it is the other way around. And how crazy that is that we live in that world now where you have to explain yourself from the other side and say, it's easier to say, I should say, hey, that's fake. It's not, that was manipulated. We know you can do it. So it wasn't me. I wasn't in that image. And now even more, I wasn't in that video, which is kind of crazy to think that it's getting the technology. Last week, we also talked a lot about, fine tuning like GPT 4.0 and 4.0 mini and what fine tuning can do for you. Obviously, we talked about the news. We also talked about RAG systems and prompting and graph RAG and a whole bunch of cool stuff in there. We did a bit of a deep dive back into actions within ChatGPT, which Jimmy did a fantastic job with. And then getting into this week, we did 2 shows where we were breaking down a recent report of the top 100 Gen I, either web or mobile products. And so I wasn't here on Monday, but the rest of the team did a great job going through that. Obviously, we had more news. And then yesterday we were talking all about Cursor. So that gets you caught up on all the topics that we might bring up today. And as always, just like we do with the news shows, we don't know what everybody else is bringing to the table. So with that, I will pass it off to, how about Jimmy? Jimmy, what's something you want to bring back around from these last 9 or so episodes?
So, okay. So after the show sometime, I was complaining because there wasn't a lot of science, AI and science news. But after the show, there was a bit of AI and science news, tangentially anyways, that dropped. Okay, so Cornell University has come up with a way to create fungus-controlled robots that tap into the mycelial attributes, right? So the mycelial, that's the part of the mushroom that lives underground and connects to a larger network. And did you know that Oregon actually has the largest mycelial organism in the entire world? It spans an entire mountain range. Well, a couple of mountains anyways.
That tracks, right?
Yeah,
that tracks. That surprise anybody?
Sounds like Avatar.
So the fungus, the mycelial fungus, what it does is it can be affected by various forms of stimuli. And so these researchers from Cornell basically attached it to these soft robots and then hit it with like ultraviolet and it would move or adapt a certain way. And there's also apparently mycelial can be affected by unknown signals. So it can be like a detector and stuff like that. So really crazy stuff, but it's robots, which is embodied AI. So yes, maybe one step removed, but now we've got biohybrid technology going out there. So yeah, so if you're a big fan of mixing technology and biology, go check out Cornell. They're working on some crazy, crazy stuff there.
That does sound crazy. It sounds like definitely science fiction level, which is kind of fun, right? Like that we have
Right.
things that are sort of approaching that, like, what? That doesn't sound like something somebody could do. And you're like, oh no, they're doing it, at some of these universities and MIT, some of these labs that you hear about, and the things that they're solving with. I just saw stuff in the news about protons, and like there's always such cool stories about what people are doing. You're like, I didn't even know that was a thing. And then you're learning how people have whole labs devoted to it, and these research students, these grad research students, are just like crushing it, and they're doing it like from around the world remotely. It's pretty amazing for sure.
So one last thing, one of the robots was spider shaped. So let's get your imagination going. It's a spider robot with mushrooms growing on it. And let's say you connect it remotely, unknown signals, to those brain organelles from that Swiss company, so that you could have your bio AI running your remote mushroom spiders. Hack. Someone write the script. I want to see the movie. Let's go.
But let's make it more, right? The mushroom spiders can communicate, both because they're AI and because they're mushroom spiders. Right? And now it's a swarm
and
of mushroom spiders, and my make it more immediately goes to the camelback crickets, which jump, right? Like, no.
No. Listen, I have way too many bad dreams from being in Iraq with the camel spiders, and they chase your shadow, which makes you feel like they're chasing you. And we had many stories of very, very big grown men and women stuck in offices because the camel spiders had cornered them from the room, and they couldn't move left or right because the camel spider moved. And these aren't, if you ever look it up, I'll just say look it up. I'm not showing it on the screen. They are
or don't, right?
terrifying.
Like take the recommendation and maybe just move on.
Maybe just don't use Google for that. By the way, you maybe think of spiders, Jimmy, real quick. This is not an AI thing, but I happen to be reading this book that I bought forever ago, and I've just tried to getting back into more reading, and it's just been sitting on my phone. It's called Project Hail Mary, and in there, he makes alien contact. I won't get into the rest of the book, but he can't see him because the alien actually, or it, whatever you want to say, the alien uses doesn't need light. It's using sound, so it can operate in pitch black. So there's a period where he can't see it, but he can see sort of like 3-fingered claw arms or whatever. So when the lights come on and there's like a hollow thing, whatever, he's like, and he's calling it Rocky, and he's like, and I can finally see Rocky, and it's a spider. It's a giant spider. It's like he just has this realization in the middle of the book. He's like, and it's a spider. I mean, it's a friendly spider. They have a conversation, all that kind of stuff, but it's literally like a central body with 5 arms, with 5 hands that have 3 fingers on each of the hands, and that's what this alien species is. My wife was like, no, just no. My wife's like, I'm out of the book. Anyway, all right, let's pass it on. I don't know, Carl, you're here. Why don't do you have any topic? If you don't, it's okay, pass it on. But do you have anything from the last sort of 9 shows, some sort of topics I brought up that you want to kind of circle back to?
I do. I really want to do one fun one, and I'm trying to figure out how I can tie it back to the episodes. So I was like, well, I'll probably tie it back to, I don't know, top 50 mobile apps, top 50 AA web apps. And it was more about like, well, sure, that's a, Suno, Udio made it in those lists. But to me, this was really funny. I saw it, so a 52-year-old musician from North Carolina, I don't know if you heard about this, charged with orchestrating an elaborate scheme to defraud the music streaming platforms, Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon Music. So what this person did is he used AI to create hundreds of thousands of fake songs by fake bands, employed bots to stream these songs millions of times over. So over the course of 7 years. So it's like this guy's been using AI for 7 years. Earned him $10 million in royalties. He arrested and charged with wire fraud and money laundering and could face 20 years in prison. So
where's
he
the
did,
illegal part? Or where's the wrong?
let me tell you how this actually works, and you let's have a fun discussion on it. so Michael Smith, so sounds like an AI. Anyway, so he created thousands of fake streaming accounts and using software to stream his AI generated songs on a loop, simulating real listeners. Initially, he uploaded his own music, but quickly realized it wouldn't generate enough income. And I think most musicians are like that. The streaming game is very tough to make like any real money off of. So teaming up with an AI music executive and a promoter, Smith massively expanded his song catalog, uploading thousands of fake tracks every week. So that's the question: is fake tracks?
Right. What makes it as a fake track and what makes it a fake user?
I definitely
right? Is there any language in the EULA that says that a user must be a human being? Right. He employed his tools to make all of those songs.
Correct.
So aren't they all his?
Right?
Okay,
so he's not necessarily copyrighting.
So just let me finish the last little bit.
Right?
So by 2019, he's earning $110,000 a month. Fantastic. He's earning way more than any artist, and with a total of 4 billion streams and 12 million in royalties by 2024. Dude's a genius.
Awesome.
Despite warnings from music distribution companies about suspicious activity, Smith denied any wrongdoing, insisting there's no fraud involved. And that's the thing. What fraud? The case is the first criminal prosecution for music streaming manipulation brought by the Manhattan U.S. District Attorneys, highlighting the vulnerability of the streaming industry where digital listens often determine commercial success.
I think this will be a great case to follow. I want them to use it as a platform to air out all of the current processes and what makes something right or wrong, or what they're trying to get that precedent on. But you know what the nice thing is about? He's got the money to actually support his case as opposed to just get rolled over.
He doesn't have to give it back.
Lawyers.
I don't think he has to give it back. I wouldn't give any back. It's like, what did I do? I, as an artist, created AI music. I do think, though, the whole like
created the bots. That's where he's going to get in trouble. I mean, I don't think they have a whole lot to stand on and say, hey, it was wrong for you. Unless Spotify's terms and conditions say you can't upload 1,000 songs. I don't know what the rule is there. Right. I mean, let's assume it's unlimited for the sake of this conversation. That part's not going to get him in trouble. He can upload 30-second, aspirational sounds of chimes or something like that and say, this is my way that I express myself. I don't think there's anything you can say about that. The problem is that he manipulated the system with either AI or bots to run them on a loop. And that has definitely got to be against the terms and conditions of any of these systems to manipulate the system like that. That's where I think
but the thing is, though, I doubt, and we'd have to take a look at this. What are the terms and conditions in determining listens? Because if you created a bot that loops it or listens on a continuous loop, you don't have anything in the terms and conditions to do that, no matter if it's quote unquote ethically, there's a difference between criminally liable and ethically liable. And I'm sure if he's found not guilty, I'm sure that people will sue him because of the lower standard. But I still don't know, because you didn't have in your terms and conditions. AI is something that's not like, but I'm sure it wasn't AI. I'm sure like people have, to make sure people don't scam there must be something in there. But
did you say that they talked to him about suspicious?
They did. They said
I have not read. Yeah, I've not read the article. I'm guessing that's where the criminal charges stem from because they likely corrected their terms before they talked to him about suspicious behavior. And if that didn't stop, now if this guy was smart, I would say like make a musicians foundation, right? Like do something that's going to get the musician world behind you about how ridiculous the pricing is and that you have to go to these lengths in order to make any money, but then a ton of money.
Yeah,
the only thing I'll say here
I
is
think there might be there's a technical part that I'm trying to understand. Like if you watched, okay, so on your computer, if you looped a YouTube video, that counts once. They don't count that as multiple views. So
Yeah.
what is it in the music side that they got looped and that got counted multiple times? So there's obviously a technical aspect on here, but I think this is more of a embarrassment case, than
It would
anything else.
Dude,
But I would love to see what the outcome is, and I'd love to see how everything is laid out. So that'll be something I'll be trying to keep track of to see how that case goes, because it could set lots of precedent, whether good or bad, coming out of the case.
Right.
And I think maybe did Justin just say the same thing? We'll do the same. Well, no, learn. Okay, so this is exactly what I was about to say, Justin. You came in right on time. How much do you want to bet all the streaming industries will learn to do the same thing internally and falsely boost engagement numbers? As Justin, not learn. I guarantee you, this is my opinion, that all music labels have been doing some form of this manipulation by bot just below wherever they think it triggers the standard. You get any new artist, somebody in that organization is most likely artificially rolling those numbers, whether that means on a continuous loop. They know all the tricks, they know all the secrets, they know how many VPNs they need to have running. And it would not surprise me at all if there are servers who are doing this kind of thing, because it is a manipulation numbers game. And if they can get that kind of numbers up, it could help out their artists. So I would not be surprised if this has already been happening for many, many years. Justin saying 100%.
I would go use like those engagement farms that are built in China and India, and just say, hey, I need you to boost my I need it. So I'm gonna hire you to boost, like to just either create hundreds of thousands of bots to play it once, or create hundreds of bots to play it 10 times, or whatever the combination that you think that is. Like,
for sure this exists.
Michael Smith 2, Michael Smith 1, Michael Smith 3, Michael Smith whatever, right? And then just have hundreds of thousands of these Michael Smiths running this song over and over and over again. But you're right, the amount of money I think a musician makes from one song, even if you stream it 1 million times, it's not enough. Like they're not compensated enough. So I thought it was kind of funny.
It's an interesting story. Hey, let's move on. Andy, you're here. Andy's here, but we haven't heard anything from Andy. So hopefully, Andy, that's because you've been waiting with bated breath. You'd be like, listen, this is what I want to talk about. It's not about these stories. So what did you come to Friday with that you want to bring back up from our last 9 or so shows?
Yeah, I want to tie this back to our discussion of retrieval augmented generation as a method to deploy applications that are less hallucinatory and more well-versed in specific areas of knowledge, like your company's knowledge. And so there's this trend that's underway, which is taking huge compute budgets to build these frontier models. And those are really, possessed of really broad knowledge, but very little specific knowledge by companies. And so simultaneously, there's a desire to shrink down those models to reduce the compute intensity, both in training and in inference, to a model that can operate against a database of your information, just that domain, but take advantage of the conversational skills and the general knowledge that the large language models have. So now there's this trend from large language models, frontier level models, down to small language models, instead of LLMs, SLMs, small language models. And so in this context, there's just a whole host of influencers and content creators on the feeds now talking about RAG. And it's like, it's become more prevalent, in my view, as a topic of discussion among people who are wanting to advise companies about how to approach building automations and agents inside their company that are knowledgeable about their company's processes and their corporate information, brand voice, etc. Retrieval augmented generation is really out there, but they are paired typically with a smaller model. So that's the idea, is reduce the cost to improve the ROI for a company by using an external database that's vectorized for retrieval augmented generation, along with a small, efficient model. So now in this vein, I'm going to tangent off to news that Sakana, a company that we've talked about extensively, but doesn't get a lot of attention really in most of the newsletters, or didn't back when it first came out. It like was a flash in the pan. But Sakana is this Japanese company that developed an evolutionary model merge method for optimizing small models to be capable of reasoning with a very, very small footprint in terms of parameters. Well, they just announced they got a 100 million Series A. Remember, Series A is, hey, we've proven that we can do this stuff. Now give us the money to scale it. Well, the players who invested that 100 million are like the glitterati of Silicon Valley, NEA, Khosla Ventures, and NVIDIA. So NVIDIA is joining with Sakana in a research collaboration to do some amazing things in Japan. So first of all, they're going to leverage NVIDIA's GPU technology to scale this idea of evolutionary optimization. And they also say in the announcement that they're going to use NVIDIA's portion of the investment also to utilize sparsity in their approach to shrinking these models down. And so they're also going to, by the way, build out a bunch of NVIDIA-powered data centers in Japan to, I'm hopeful that that's going to help NVIDIA's stock price. And then they're also going to do AI community building in Japan to enhance community activities, doing events and so on. So NVIDIA is making a major investment, like Microsoft was making major investments around the world. Well, now NVIDIA is investing in the same kind of geopolitical strategy around AI in Japan. Now, I want to just quickly talk about sparsity for a second. So we've talked internally at the Daily AI Show about sparse priming representation, which is a method of minimizing the number of tokens that are required to take a large frontier model that has a bunch of stuff in there and elicit the parts that are really interesting to you without having to shove a bunch of tokens in there for context. So sparsity in general is a way of focusing on the most critical elements in the data by using just the sparse representation data as a token as a prompt. But also sparsity is relevant to models. So in the model world, you can prune off the parameters in existing large networks and make them smaller by getting rid of those parts of the model, the parameters that are not so critical to the task that you want. So pruning, there's also this idea of distillation, which is related to the evolutionary process, which is transferring knowledge from a teacher model into a smaller student model, but that retains the predictive power at a fraction of the computational cost. So those things, plus, focusing on the relevant tokens in a sequence in order to put them in, pruning down the models, doing it in an evolutionary process, that's all happening now with 100 million of funding at Sakana. So I think it's related to what we've been talking about RAG, because we're going to see very capable models, very small, coupled with RAG architecture, and that's going to be the way. By the way, another point of information is that there's news today that OpenAI is considering charging as much as $2,000 a month to have access to their frontier models of the next generation, Orion, Strawberry, etc. So now you see this landscape of AI models kind of bifurcating. You're going to have small, very competent models like OpenAI's GPT-4o Mini, or Sakana's eventual result of its evolutionary process with NVIDIA support. And then you're also going to see these frontier models that are the masterminds out there, but you're going to have to pay to use those masterminds.
And truthfully, like $2,000 a month for an enterprise company is going to be a drop in the bucket if it's capable of doing some of these processes as we expect it would be. And I want to comment on that too, because yes, I saw that in the news too about the 2,000, and I'm sure there will be some enterprise plan at like 2,000. That really wouldn't be far away from like Salesforce and other big players out there who have really, really high levels. So that's not going to be our end user. That's not going to be like us per se. I think we do expect things like Sora and maybe this Orion and other things to cost more because they're more compute. We're not just creating one image. We're maybe creating 24 frames per second or something like that to create a moving picture. So it would be, I don't know, to me, it would be obvious that it would end up costing more to run those because it literally does cost them more to do it. And we'll see those costs come down over time. Since you mentioned OpenAI, God knows with their updates and stuff like that. So the other day I talked about GPT Next because I talked about how OpenAI's CEO in Japan said GPT Next is the name of the next thing. Well, now OpenAI has come back and clarified, said, no. That's not what we meant at all. He misused it or something. Maybe it was lost in translation. No pun intended there. The GPT Next is just a general term for basically what's coming next, and the graph that he showed that had this straight up almost hockey stick trajectory was just a representation. It's not really how we think that, like you can't really plot on that or anything like that. So OpenAI has stepped back again, not really surprising here, and said GPT Next is not the name of whatever's coming up. It's not whatever's after GPT-4o. It's not a new model. It's just a term it seems like that we're using to talk about the potential of where these next models are going. Okay, whatever. I mean, I think people are kind of tired with this. I don't know, Beth, you're shaking your head. What do you think about this news?
No, like the the graph that they have been using that has GPT Next as a thing is literally a plotted graph. Like
Yeah.
it shows the curve, and
Yeah.
they use it. Carl saw it live in Paris when he was at whatever the Paris thing was. You're muted. Go ahead and
I saw it twice. One from the actual product team presented to previously the enterprise company, and one to the Paris one was a little different. But you know what? Why don't we just show what we're talking about? So I'm going to show it, and let's run it because we're pretty close now anyway. So let's
Carl's
run.
going rogue.
Yeah, I always go rogue. So anyway, so here's what we mean by the product team one that I saw, right? So you have all these features, and then you have GPT Next products. Now this was shown for an enterprise audience, but you can kind of see where everything was. They've added the piece, custom training, data warehouse connector. So GPT Next here is if you actually really dive deep a little bit, this right here, advanced GPT workflows, that is the term that was used for agentic features. Mm-hmm. So that has yet to come out. Memories come out, stores come out, custom GPTs, like these are the things that they were building, but these are the things, internal knowledge search, custom training, so and so, like as they build up, yeah. Right? And then everyone was using at OpenAI, but they were talking about GPT Next. We didn't know if that's what it was called or that was just GPT Next. And we just never knew. But it's funny because every single presentation we've seen it, every single leak, every single thing had that in it. So I would assume that could be it. And everyone was saying we're going to do this. So we thought, okay, it's going to be in 2024 sometime. We're not just sure. We're not sure where. So that's what that's what everyone was talking about.
Awesome. Absolutely. Yeah, Jimmy.
Well, no, just looking at those kinds of graphs, hearing the information coming out from, major CEO, and then them trying to pull back a little bit, I think it's more they're just trying to cover bases and make whatever that next impact is going to be. They seem to hit a stride in their hype cycle. So I'm just wondering if this pullback is part of that, so that they can try and retain some of that momentum, and so people will keep being surprised and impressed and those kinds of things. So that's like my initial impressions out of what's coming out of that. But we never know. Also, fall seems to be the big tech releases across the board, right? Next week we got Apple doing their event, and then normally OpenAI does something at the end of November, right? Around that time. So I think there's a lot of news that is still yet to come, and I'm sure more than enough of it will be impressive.
Yeah, OpenAI is split Dev Day into 3, so there's going to be a Europe, US, and I don't know where the third one is, but the idea is to go where the devs are. Okay, no one's talked about it yet, but this relates to the Cursor show, which was literally 24 hours ago. Replit dropped agents, a coding agent that can right now it codes in Python, Next.js, and one other thing, right? So it's not as broad a coding agent as Cursor was, but it's literally on one of the places where you would deploy the code that you create in Cursor or artifacts or any of those places. So and when you hear people talk about like, yeah, oh my, it's so great to like have a coder, but now what do I do with the code? I need a like really in-depth tutorial. Replit has made it as easy as Artifacts made it on for Anthropic, because Anthropic is like, cool, you like this? Publish. Right? And then it hosts it for you. Replit, same thing. Like, hey, except that Replit is doing is it's explaining to you as it's coding. Right? So they're really trying to help people understand code, use their service. And Carl and I totally bought the 1 year subscription and highly recommend it, because it's $10 a month if you pay all at once, and you have a year of learning to do this, which coincidentally is half of what Cursor is going to charge you, and actually is going to host your stuff. I mean, it's amazing what has happened in the last week, in the last 48 hours, about what's possible when you have an idea for something and then want to deploy it. So like all of those, go listen to yesterday's show. All of those things that we were talking about are like also relevant in this Replit, in this new Replit agent. And it's in early release, but it's an early release for subscribers, right? It's not an early release. We're only going to pick 7 of you and then wait. Maybe they already picked 7. I don't know. I didn't know about it until they announced it. So, Carl, what do you think? Yeah.
Well, I was just going to say, I'm on board. I want to give it a shot, see what it's looked like, because I've been using Cursor since Wednesday, and it helped me figure out a possible solution for one of our post-production pieces, and I've been just iterating on top of that. And funny you mentioned that that Replit includes an explanation of what's going on. I literally just told Cursor, hey, add extra comments in the code that explain the 5 W's, essentially, the who, what, where, why, of what each section is doing. So yeah, I want to see how much more of an education that I'll get from using Replit. So yeah, it's super exciting stories.
So maybe we should do like a show on it.
Yeah. Oh, I'm down.
Really just to showcase what we can do. And in our audience, if for those who are listening or those who are about to listen, wherever you are, whenever after this show, send us what potentially something that you want to build from scratch, and we'll try to build it. So let us know. Do we have an email? I'm so terrible.
Oh yeah, they can just go to the website. Yeah.
Or you can go to our website. Yeah.
Let me explain what is sort of transformational about Replit doing this as opposed to one of the LLMs. So what we're really talking about here is taking these large language models that are capable of understanding all kinds of coding languages alongside English or any other human language that is there, and giving the user the opportunity to have it respond to your natural language prompts and generate code in this other language that's going to effectuate the desired functions that you want in an application. But so AI has always been good at coding. Copilots have been around for more than a year, and they're really sophisticated. But what's fantastic about Replit is, while AI is good at coding, setting up an IDE, an integrated development environment for coders or product managers now, is a roadblock for us. I can say this for sure. Like we talked about working in Cursor after the show or before the show yesterday or sometime in the last 48 hours. And then we realized that, okay, I can build this thing locally on my machine in the Cursor application, but then I've got to figure out how to work Amazon Web Services or Google Cloud and set this up as a server. And I don't know any of that stuff. Replit handles all of that. So you're building a coding copilot. They've built a coding copilot on top of their development and production environment. So you can produce an app that's facing the web and accesses users right from the same console in Replit. And I haven't even looked at Replit yet. I'm waiting for the opportunity. But last night, Carl was building with it and got pretty pumped up about it. Let's just say that. So
yeah. And this has turned into a Replit stand show. So Replit, call us. And I'm old. I still do this. That is not how people call anymore. They don't even call.
That's the shaka. That's not call. That's
yes.
But the other thing that is very cool about Replit's hosting, when you publish a Replit, it's hosted. It includes, you have to set the thresholds, but it includes a scalability option. So it's excited for you to make something that is going to grow and expand, and you get a certain amount of that, and then they're going to charge you because now a whole bunch of people are using it, which is why they give you the ability to like set a guardrail because you didn't add a payment feature to your thing that just suddenly grew really big. But it's been a platform that wants you to grow for a really long time. Now it's a platform that wants to help you plant the seed and like water the plant, and now also help you grow. I just find that really exciting.
Nicely analogized.
Sure.
What is that word? Yeah,
we'll go with it. Okay, well, I think unless anybody else has any major stuff that they want to bring up,
I do just one little one.
Sure.
Matt Schumer, who is the CEO of Hyperwrite, yesterday released what people have thought would be, it's called Reflection 70B. It is an open source model that apparently, and I haven't seen the test on this, has blown, or not, I hate using that word, is better than other of the models through some benchmarks. 4.0, Llama, Sonnet 3.5, and apparently they're releasing, so 70B, Reflection 70B, they're releasing 405B next week. So it's a very interesting time to see like how good is that model 405B when 70B just launched, and it seems to be better than all the models open source and even closed source models. What does that look like? So if you want to check it out on X, Matt Schumer, take a look. I think it's on Hugging Face too. have a gander at that model, because a lot of people are, it's low key, but it's apparently pretty good.
Oh, and let us know if you want to see a model showdown. We can set up a side by side and test our greatest prompts. It'll be model mayhem on Sunday. No, it'll be probably Monday through Friday. But yeah, let us know if you want to watch that. I think it's a great idea. We'll see. Let me
and
know.
the thing that makes this really, really good, apparently, is that it's able to learn and fix its own mistakes. Again, don't know what that means, but people like Matt, he's pretty well known in the space. That sounds pretty amazing.
Yeah, he's not one to sleep on. If you remember months ago, we showed I downloaded it and ran the agentic features that came from Hyperwrite. It has nothing to do with Hyperwrite, but it's from Matt Schumann, that team or whatever, where it was taking over my mouse and able to run multiple steps. Like it would say, okay, well, if you want me to open up this program and then, or let me give it a quick example. If you want me to search for a new song and then send it over to you in Slack, that's two different programs. And so you would literally just write this really basic command that said, this is what I want you to do. And it would start go through the reasoning process. Then it would take over your mouse and say, well, the first thing I need to go do is go to your desktop and I need to find Spotify. So I'm going to open Spotify. Now you asked for the best songs in 1990, right? So I'm going to go search for the best songs in 1990. And it would literally run through it. It was like 50% successful. Maybe 50% successful. There were some ones where it totally worked. As long as I didn't touch, it would run through the thing and then send it into Slack and do whatever. So just not somebody to sleep on, whether it's these models or otherwise. This is not the first thing Hyperwrite and their team has put out that really doesn't have anything to do with Hyperwrite, weirdly enough. Go ahead, Beth. You have
well, it's the other thing about this, because Matt, like when you hear people talk about trying to solve the problem of LLMs being able to assess themselves and correct and learn from that assessment and correction, those are things that the big frontier model development studios are doing, right? Like that is the next level of challenge. Now, it may be that all of them have figured it out and they're all red teaming right now, right? Like that, we may be seeing the movie that's created and not the one that is still being produced somewhere. But very cool that someone small enough like Matt can do this. And yes, he's been doing this kind of all along. I just find it really exciting that this wasn't like a big or a big small, right? Like Mistral or something like that. But yeah, I just want to say that.
And just to wrap up, Jude is totally in for the AI showdown. Now, I'm not saying we should wait this long. Maybe we'll do it twice, but this would be a great lineup to March Madness, because we can create a bracket and then we can create the open AI models and do some really fun things along with March Madness. Not saying we should wait all the way to March. That's a solid 6-7 months away. But something to think about when it comes around to maybe do a fun bracket of open AI models, whatever those are at that time. It's funny to say 6-7 months. You'd be like, listen, we're just going to have to wait, because there's no telling in the world of AI what March will bring by any means. But anyway, good idea on it. Glad you're into it, Jude. I like it. I like it too. I like a battle bot type showdown here. Put him in the cage and let's see what happens. Okay, we're gonna wrap it up there. Hopefully you guys found this interesting. I always love these shows. It's one of my favorite shows to do every other Friday, because we just bring up all sorts of fun stuff. It's a little bit more loose. Doesn't necessarily have one particular path that goes on, but sometimes those are the most fun shows. So hope you guys enjoyed. Next week we'll be back. We have a lot of ideas. One of them I think we'll definitely do is on the Apple event, and whatever comes out of that. It might end up being a little not as exciting, because they've sort of pushed some of the AI stuff of it, the Apple Intelligence stuff of it. But we'll talk about it next week for sure, because there's a lot of AI stuff to come out of that. It'll be really interesting. That could be, Siri getting upgraded on your phone and getting into the Apple AI could really be the way that a lot of people in the world really get introduced to high level LLMs. So I think that's really interesting. Be one of the topics among many that we come up to. I kind of want to talk about Google Labs and all the cool stuff that's going on in Google Labs. Maybe that could be our Friday show. I don't know. We're going to figure it out, and we're going to come back with a lot of cool shows to talk about next week. So stay tuned. Keep on coming back. Don't forget that newsletter goes out on Sunday. So if you want to get on that newsletter list and get our Sunday edition, you got to get subscribed before Saturday night. Let's be honest, somewhere in that range will be fine. And you can go to thedailyAIshow.com to sign up for that newsletter right away. That list is growing quick, and we're getting a lot of cool feedback from it. So be one of the cool kids and sign up for the newsletter. Geez, what are you waiting for? And also subscribe to this show. Come on, just do it. All right. Have a great weekend, everybody. Thanks for a good week of shows, the crew. And we will see you guys again on Monday. Until then.
All right.